price of eggs is really high right now. Well, that's true about a lot of basics. So I figured, why not take advantage of the fact that eggs are feeling like a luxury item and use those shells to make a money-drawing spell candle. Yeah, I'm making a couple other candles as well, one for love, one for protection. I'll show you how I did it so you can try it too. Coming up next. Welcome to the Witch's Studio. I am, of course, Mickie Mueller, author, illustrator, and witch, not necessarily in that order. And I thought I might bring you some witchcraft today to draw money in and keep it. This is one of my many witchy DIYs on my channel. Plus, I've got spells, witchy tips, and tricks too. So if you want more of that in your life, you're in the right place. Apparently, 63% of the people who enjoy watching my videos haven't subscribed yet. It's as easy as hitting that button, so you might as well just go ahead and do it if you haven't already. Subscribing and hitting the notification bell can help you find your way back to my Witch's Studio, and lets me know that you like joining me here for more witchcraft. When times are tough, I like to keep many forms of money magic going. And friends, I don't have to tell you, times are tough. The spring equinox is just around the corner, and that got me thinking about eggs. Eggs are a symbol of fertility, and that includes concepts of a fertile field where the crops would be planted, abundant food and resources, and plenty for all. Of course, we bring those concepts into the modern times in the form of money and paychecks. Eggs are a symbol of life bursting forth in a time of growth. Of course, a little egg contains the building blocks to create a whole new life. That is, if the egg is fertilized. Even the eggshells are full of magic. It protects what's inside the egg, and it's an incredibly strong shape that resists breaking as it shields that precious interior. Eggshells are also associated with witches. In fact, there's an old superstition that says eggshells left unbroken after the eggs were eaten could be used by witches to travel in. It was believed they would go out to sea and endanger the sailing ships. Well, I have no interest in bothering sailors, except Dan, who spent some time in the Navy. And I've never used an eggshell for transportation, but the story certainly is charming. Eggs also have many uses in witchcraft. Many traditions use them as a form of cleansing away harmful energies. In addition to working with eggshells, I'm going to be recycling some wax that I saved from old candles to make some new magic. I'm not a professional candle maker, but I am a candle hobbyist. I've done a little troubleshooting on this one so that you don't have to, and I'll be transparent about a couple of things that weren't perfect so you can learn from both my mistakes as well as my successes. Okay, let's go into the kitchen where we've got to crack some eggs in order to make this money magic. Okay, so obviously you're going to need some eggs. I've got some extra large eggs here that I bought at Aldi, and I use a little tack, or some people call that a push pin. Now when you look at an egg, there's a big end and there's a little end. We're going to poke a hole in the top, the little end, and that's how I do it. Now that's just a hole to get us started. Grab a toothpick or other pokey item, and you're just going to very slowly chip away at that top hole until you have an opening big enough to get the egg out. Do this slowly and gently so that you don't break away any part of the egg that you don't want to break away. I do anywhere from like the size of a pea to the size of a blueberry or a soybean. I don't know, you know, about that size. And I'm using a carry-out chopstick to break up that yolk inside the egg, and then just use a little patience and get that egg out of that eggshell. Then just rinse that egg out, and you're going to want to let this dry for 24 hours. And if you're an impatient person, I will show you later on why it's a good idea to wait and not try to do it if the egg isn't dry all the way. Now you can save that egg for later if you want, or go ahead and make your breakfast, which is what I did. Yeah, I'm a fancy witch. I keep this book, Magical Candle Crafting by my friend Ember Grant, with all my candle making supplies. This is an excellent book. If you've never done this kind of thing before, I highly recommend you pick up a copy of this. She's the one that taught me this great idea of using Dixie cups. I'm using them to store wax from leftover prosperity candles. As she explains in the book, they're also a really nice mold for making votive-sized candles. Very affordable. And if you're vegan and you don't want to make a candle out of eggs, it certainly is a good alternative. I've marked the bottoms of mine so that I know what kind of candle wax is in those, and use them to make the same kind of candle. I'm also using part of an egg carton to support my eggs when I pour the wax. And I have a couple of oils here. This one is from an old Dorothy Morrison spell kit. It's got gold flakes in the bottom, and this is just some peppermint. I have 3 eggs here that have dried for more than 24 hours. There's a 4th egg that I emptied out the same morning. You'll see that one shortly. Now I have a proper wax carafe and a thermometer that I usually use, but because I want to make sure this is accessible to everybody and you don't have to go out and buy any special tools, I'm going to be doing this demonstration with this tin can that I formed a little pour spout on. I also have a supply of proper wicks, but if you don't have any, I thought let's try something different. We're actually going to use birthday candles. This is a double boiler. The can goes inside a pot that's full of water. This is the best way to melt wax and not have it catch on fire. I suggest you use your oldest, junkiest cooking pot. If you don't have one, you can probably get one from a secondhand store for about $1. Right before I pour, I like to add my oils. This wax is probably too hot, and all that will really do is cause it to shrink a little bit more, which I'll show you shortly. Stirring in my intentions. And for goodness sake, use something to protect your hand from the heat. I like to wipe the water off the bottom of the can. And now I am simply pouring the wax into that little hole. If a little spills, it's okay. That's why we put the eggs in this holder. You might need to keep checking and see how high the wax is, and then just keep going until you basically have filled the whole thing up. Now, ideally, you should probably wait about 10-15 minutes before putting your wick or your birthday candle in. I did not do this. I did it on my test one that I did the day before this, and then completely forgot to wait, so I'm just letting you know. And I had enough wax to fill a second one too. I'm going to make that one for my friend Kim. It's pretty common when you pour your own candles to have a little tunneling at the top once it's cooled. So you just melt the wax again and fill that little tunnel up. Now I prepare a little cup to store the rest of my prosperity wax in. Wipe the rest of the wax out of the hot can with a napkin, and now I'm going to go ahead and make a love candle as well, because the spring equinox is mine and Dan's wedding anniversary, so I'll have a nice little love candle to burn on our anniversary. I added rose petal powder and love oil from our beautiful friend White Raven. While I had all the supplies out, I decided to go ahead and make a protection candle as well, because eggshells are really great for protection magic. It's best to wait 24 hours to cool your candles and then put them in the freezer, if you have room. Well, I did make room, so freezing them is supposed to make the wax separate easier from the shell. When I crack my hard-boiled eggs, I like to use a spoon because it's kind of the shape of the egg and crushes it a little less. So I thought that might work well here, and it seems like it did. I did notice there are some cracks in the candles themselves. I honestly think that's because I put them in the freezer too soon. So do as I say, not as I do. And you might actually even get slightly better results. Now here comes that protection candle that I made out of the egg that I did not let dry all the way. It was a pain to remove the eggshell, and the membrane really stuck all over it. Here's what I think happened. That membrane inside the shell is still stretchy before it dries all the way. I think the wax filled up the membrane underneath, in between the membrane and the shell, and it really made this candle a hot mess. At first, it seemed like it was going to be okay, but the more I messed with it, the bottom broke off and revealed that membrane in between. I used it in a holder for my promo, but yeah, it was not a usable candle. I put a little foil in the bottom of a tiny skillet and just melted the bottoms flat so that they would stand up on a surface. Now I'm ready to carve some symbols and sigils into my candles. And I'm just using a pencil because items around the house can make great magical tools. This is a symbol for money that I've been using for ages and came out of a Scott Cunningham book. I really like it. I feel like the upturned cup shape at the top is to bring money in. Then there's a line that brings it down, and then there's an upside down cup to hold the money. I put another one on the exact opposite side, and then I used the old standby $ on the other two sides. Of course, you can use the symbol of money in the country where you live or any other money symbols that you like. I also decided to use symbols of growth. I have leaves growing up from the bottom. I'm using an old paintbrush to clean away all of the loose wax. And I have a little acrylic paint with some magical oil in it just to boost the energy that I'm going to apply as a sigil medium to really make these symbols pop. You may have seen a similar method used by Riotaddams and their character Auntie Peg over on Instagram and TikTok. This is a different formula than they use. If you are interested in a video about these kinds of formulas, let me know. Riotaddams did tell us in the comments of their videos what's in the formula that they use. And I also have another version that's soft wax, so I'd be happy to show you several different methods to get this effect. Now I decided to make this candle part of a spell. I've added some coins and stones to this tray, and I'm also going to use cinnamon and basil. I also realized that that wick was a little short, so I went ahead and shaved the top off before I started the spell. If I had let those candles cool for just 15 or 20 minutes before adding the birthday candle, it would have worked out a lot better. My birthday candle wick was perfect in the test candle I did the day before. But this worked fine. As you can see, it lit well and it actually burned well. Your magic doesn't have to be perfect in order to be effective. I went ahead and filmed it at different points so that you could see how it burns. Once it got near the bottom, the wax began to spill out. So I do recommend that if you burn these kind of candles, use them in a tray like I had and with items around them that won't be damaged if candle wax gets on them. Lots of people like to read the patterns that the candle wax makes after a spell to determine how the spell's outcome will be. I personally think it looks a bit like a frog, which is an animal ally sometimes associated with prosperity and money. Post in the comments what you think it looks like or what you see in the patterns of this wax. Overall, I was pretty happy with how these candles turned out. It was a fun project, and it's always nice to make your own magical supplies like candles. Will you try making your own eggshell candles? Let me know down in the comments if you think it's a fun way to create a money drawing candle. Also, I know there are some professional candle makers here and probably some more serious hobbyists as well. Feel free to drop any tips you have in the comments. Also, share this video with that one witch, you know, the one witch, the one that loves making stuff like this. They'll probably make a whole dozen of these and maybe they'll give you one. Of course, if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed and cast your spell on the notification bell so that you'll magically know as soon as I upload a new video. And speaking of new videos, you can catch my videos early and ad-free now over on my Patreon. I'll put the link in the description below and in my About section too. I'll be sharing exclusive content on Patreon, sneak peeks into current projects with opportunities for your input, behind the scenes stuff, and monthly printables. Most of the perks being available for all tiers. A big thank you to all my patrons. Without you, I might not have been able to afford these eggs. And thank you for visiting me here. I have a few more videos that I think you might enjoy. I'll see you next time. Until then, I hope that you stay safe, happy, and healthy. And remember, as always, to be your magic. Bye, everybody. Eggshells are also associated. Eggshell.